Clem, right now I want to kind of like kickstart, because we have got lots of like, I would say, I know you have got prediction. I want to talk about trends, but also, you know, there are a few things that I want to cover. So if we start with the financial markets, because we have been, you know, we have been in financial market for a long time. You have been, you founded the DVFN, you were, you know, leading the financial news website, you are CEO of Online Blockchain, and I was, you know, working with different kind of companies, IPOing, small cap. So here we are, and what's is going to happen to the stock market? Because, you know, this is something that people want to know. Should we wait? Should we look at opportunity? What kind of is the feeling? I mean, my feeling is that there is a liquidity crisis, and yeah, is something to kind of like deal cautiously. But, you know, I will be interested to know your
I wish people would drop the word liquidity and go back to the old word cash.
Okay, okay.
Liquidity, what's that? What's that? Oh, somebody dropped a bucket of water on his head. He got plenty of it. I mean, it's cash. And people say, oh, the company's in a liquidity crisis. That's rubbish. That's just covering up the fact that they've got no cash. I mean, got a cash crisis, they run out of money. Right? Now, the inflation that we've been experiencing will be slowing down for sure, because inflation is very simple to understand. You print money, you get inflation. You stop printing money, you stop getting inflation. Inflation isn't a rolling ball. It's a rolling ball when you keep printing more and more and more money. Now, they have stopped printing more money to an extent. They're printing a lot less new money than they were. The only way you can stop printing new money, actually, is for governments to get their fiscal debt under control. And that's not happening in the UK. That's not happening in the US. That's not happening in various places. So low levels, which would be considered high levels of inflation a few years ago, elevated levels of inflation are going to be here for a few years, 3, 4, 5, 6%, that sort of area. Real inflation rather than the numbers that they flow out. I mean, you know, this seems to be the era of fake everything, including statistics. I suppose they've been fake for a long time, but elevated price increases will be there, and people's wages won't keep up because people have got poorer because of all the money that was lost in 2020 and 21 through COVID. Because if you stop your economy for 2 years or slow it down dramatically, you're going to make less money. It's the equivalent for you going on holiday for half the year or going part-time work, right? You're not going to have as much money. And that's what's happened to the global economy. So everybody, pretty much everybody on average is poorer. And therefore, you know, you're poorer. And to claw that back is going to take a long time. But the markets are still out of whack, particularly in America. All you have to do, if you want a signal, is look at the NASDAQ. Until the NASDAQ comes down to a sensible level, it ain't over.
What is the sensible level?
Well, I think somewhere within the range of the crash of 2020 at the beginning. There's a crash there. Now, inflation means that if the number was, say, 10, it should now be approximately 20% more. Yeah, so 12. Yeah. So say it was 5,000, it should be 6,000. For example. But inflation actually doesn't help the picture. So you can discount all that and say that, you know, the real value of the market should be somewhere adjusted for loss, adjusted for inflation, around in the band between the top and bottom of that crash, which is kind of, you know, where the UK market is right now. But America's way out there, way up there. A lot of stocks have come back down to those levels, but the American market hasn't, and the NASDAQ is the standout for that. So until that comes back, I think you can't really say that this bear market has run its course, because it is a bear market. You look at it, it looks like every crash forever, and it looks like it's halfway through.
So if we have to kind of look at the tech stock that have been driving the NASDAQ,
well, the index as a whole, I mean, it's hard to take out single advantages, because right now Apple is holding up the whole NASDAQ. Is the reason why it's not a lot lower is because Apple hasn't really come down a lot. And, you know, Apple is a fab company, but, you know, if that does go, the whole NASDAQ index will crumble. And I think that is what you should look out for.
So in terms of percentage, do you have a percentage that you think
Yeah, as much again, about as much again as we've had. Same again. And you see, what could happen is it could happen really fast. We could wake up tomorrow and it could happen. Or it could just go tick, 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 tick. Because bear market, in the modern parlance of Muppets that don't know what they're talking about, they go, oh, it's gone down 20%. We're in a bear market. Now, that's not what a bear market is. A bear market is when it starts to go down. So you could be at the all-time high and suddenly the market kills over and starts to go down. That means you're in a bear market if it keeps on going down. If a new trend has been established and it's a that away, it's a bear market. Now, this bear market, I think we're about halfway through. And one of the things that are keeping it up is Apple. Now, if Apple does crumble, and I'm not an expert on Apple crumble or Apple for that matter, if Apple does start to do what Tesla's done, what Amazon's done, what Facebook's done, etc., what Google's done, then the NASDAQ will come down heavily. And that will be the final move in this bear market. And then you'll get a bottom, it will lie around on the bottom, and then it will go up again. And then that's when I'll be buying back in.
Okay, gotcha. Where you mentioned the UK market. I mean, would you say that the UK is more a reasonable level where you can kind of like
the UK is cheap, but the UK is bargain basement Britain. But that's because it's such a mess. I mean, it's just a mess on many levels. I mean, I don't believe much I read in the newspapers, but you don't really have to read much in the newspaper to see what a mess is. It's just a mess. I mean, the Tory party, the governing party of Great Britain, is on its last legs. You know, who knows what will happen if Labour Party get in. Maybe they'll be reasonable. Maybe they'll be good. Maybe it'll be Tony Blair Mark II. Who knows? But, you know, it's a mess. It's just a mess. Brexit is a mess. It's just all a mess. And it deserves to have a low valuation. One of the things, if you look at the UK market, you go, it's gone up since 2000. What's wrong with it? And then you look around and you see France did the same thing. Now, what happened? Well, France introduced a stamp duty, and that basically killed their market. And so they took it off again. And then the moment they took it off, up it starts to go again. So you've got England being rubbish, and you've got the French market suddenly being rubbish, and like the rubbish English market, the French take off their stamp duty and away the French market goes. Meanwhile, the English market carries on being as dead as a doornail. Whereas all the other markets, Germany and America, whoosh, off they go into the skies. So the UK market is basically dying. Brexit's killing it, and the retarded financial services regulators killing it. The governance of the country's killing it. Brexit is killing it, and there's nothing seems to be able to turn it around because nobody really understands why they're dying. You know, it's just going the way of the buffalo. Now, interestingly enough, the French market, Euronext, became a bigger market than London this year. And that's only going to go one way. So the UK market has lost its position and will carry on losing its position. It did a terrible transaction where it bought a large chunk of Reuters. So the exchange itself is going to be, having interesting times in the next 4 or 5 years. So it all looks pretty dire, really. So someone has to come out and do something pretty spectacular to turn things around, I think, for the UK market. But it is already cheap. I mean, you look at it and you go, how can it be this cheap? And it hasn't come down in a lump like the other markets because it had nowhere to go, because it hasn't gone up for 20 years. So it's in a sense, it's almost pre-crashed. But when the America and Germany and all those other proper markets reach their bottom and turn around, the UK market will go up as well, because, that's just the way these things work.
I thought that the Microsoft move into the London Stock Exchange, buying shares, that was quite interesting. Do you want to comment on that?
Well, I mean, good luck to them, right? I mean, it's like, so the London Stock Exchange is going to have Microsoft bind itself to its nervous system. I mean, that could be good, I suppose. I mean, it sounds more like the Alien, doesn't it? And
deal.
If you lose control of your technology, then you are absolutely lost. And the London Stock Exchange did that at one stage about 30 years ago and nearly went bust because it actually got into it outsourced its technology, and that was almost the end of it. And then they clawed that back, and they got going, and they sorted it out, and it ended up a lot cheaper to do it that way than get some third party to make a mess of it. Of course, not only are third parties more expensive, but then of course they got you by the throat, haven't they? And then they get even more expensive, and then you lose the ability to do it yourself, and then you're doomed, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I think we can maybe come back to that when
that's strategic. I mean, that takes years. I mean, the whole strategic position of the UK under Brexit is a case in point, because the idea was small, fast-moving, buccaneering, dashing Britain would cut a swathe into this new world by being independent of a lumbering Europe. But then when they actually cut the cord, they didn't become swashbuckling and go forward and be, swashbuckling freebooters. They got just as numb and as dullard as Europe, but just small and stupid rather than big and stupid, which is not a formula for success, is it?
Yeah, I think some people would argue, they would say maybe that is the price to pay at the beginning. If you have a long-term view, then the UK can rise stronger because it's more accustomed to.
It hasn't done anything. Hasn't done anything to establish a forward strategy for being small and lightweight and fast moving. It hasn't done anything brave. The moment it tried to do anything brave with Truss and her chancellor, the whole thing collapsed.
Yeah,
it's good. It hasn't got the spine to be a freebooting, swashbuckling Errol Flynn of a country.
Let's see. We wanna be positive on the UK, but let's now talk.
Well, I mean, they can always, you can always turn it around, but the previous leadership that wanted to turn it around lasted 10 minutes, and the one before that got booted out. So we'll see where the daring comes from. Are we going to have some daring, do you think? Are you looking forward to a daring Britain? Have you seen daring leadership there?
I think so. I think I want to be positive about the UK. Now, talking about gold, because we were talking about it like a year ago, and we were all positive on gold is great, you need to diversify, but gold hasn't done really anything, but it had all quite well during 2022. So are we going to see a breakthrough in 2023? People are talking about silver going through the roof. What are your views on gold? Because, if
you dropped a brick of silver out of an aeroplane, it might go through your roof.
I might break
it. But I mean, look, the trouble is it's mad Vlad, right? Because Russia has got to sell its precious metals, which it produces lots of, to fund its war. So it's suppressing the price of gold and platinum and silver, probably, because it is dumping it in places like Dubai and India and China to get money for its war. And until that war ends, that will always be a large seller. If you look at the price of gold and you look at Russians' gold reserves, you see that they track each other on the way up. And of course, Russia's got to pay for this war. And it's not buying Iranian drones with caviar, is it? So, all that expense, and it is vast. It's going to be, a lot of that's going to be with oil and gold. And with gold, there's just not, if you've got a big seller, it's just going to suppress the price. So you've had a 20% devaluation of currency, you could say, roughly speaking. So gold should be 2,400, but it's 1,800. And the reason it's 1,800 is suppressed by Russian selling. Now, that's good news in a way, because like all things, they come to an end. And the war in Ukraine, Russia will come to an end. It will end one way or the other, and it will probably be in a couple of years. At that point, gold will reprice, not down. Everyone will go, well, the war's over. Why's gold going up? Because Russia won't be selling gold anymore, right? And it will go, because it will reprice to what the inflation effect has had on fiat. So if by then we've had 40% inflation, gold should go up 30, 40, 50, 60%, depending on how much it's been depressed by the selling.
But it is going to be a long wait. So you don't think anything...
Well, it's not an overnight, it's not a day trade.
It's not a 2023 story, gold.
Look, I buy a chunk of gold every month in one of those ones where you send them some money and they buy it and they keep it in a vault in Switzerland. And, I'm just dollar cost averaging it in a way that I don't really care what the price is today, tomorrow, next month, or even this next year. And I think that's the way to go, because gold really, trouble is with people like gold is they go all in on it. They go, oh yeah, brilliant. I'm going to put 50% of my money in gold. And I almost did that last year. I mean, I took a real bath on gold until I realized if Vlad was, selling Russia's gold to fund his blooming war. And yeah, I mean, it's a thing to hold 2.5% of your money, and 10% if you're over enthusiastic. Not go, oh, I'm going all gold. It's the end of the world. The zombies are going to attack. We're going to get hyperinflation. It's going back to the, whatever. You're going back to the pengo in Hungary. I've got to buy gold. And remember, when things get that bad, gold's no use at all. I mean, people were swapping, gold watches for cigarettes in the Second World War. So, gold is good when there's chronic, runaway is pretty good, but chronic high, medium high inflation, then gold will appreciate. And it's been a reasonably good bet on that basis.
Okay. I mean, we talk about gold, and obviously, I think 2023 is going to be a year of looking at alternative investment assets. So kind of gold is one, and then you have got Bitcoin, which people can argue, is going to be the new gold, but it isn't. And I want to.
Gold is the new Bitcoin. Didn't you know?
Well, I think they are quite different, but they can be quite similar. And so let's move to the crypto market, because that's I think I'm more excited about that. I don't know about you, but 2023 Bitcoin price target.
2023. I'm not a fan to 2024, 2025. It's going to wait for the halving. Look, the people are going to start to lose interest in crypto in the land of regulation. I mean, I guess a lot of people have been hired because crypto was, was worth 3 or 4 trillion, and they all got jobs. And pretty soon they're going to be fired because people are going to say, hey, why are we bothering regulating this thing? It's only worth 300 billion. It's like a Walt Disney. It's like having a office of the regulation of Walt Disney. It's not big enough to care about. It was a bubble, it was a boom, and it was a crash, and it's happened, and that's it. It's all over, and then everybody will look away, and then away it go again, and the halvening will do it. Now, the interesting. This is the way I see it. Bitcoin, yes. Ethereum, maybe. Everybody else, yeah. What's going to happen? It's not about this battle between crypto and fiat. It's not about governments and paper money being bad and this deflationary computer money being good. It's nothing to do with that at all. What it's about is the ability to delayer rent-seeking middlemen and those dogs in a manger that make our life a blooming misery, because you can turn the idea of the way that businesses work inside out. So you can delayer lots of middlemen, which are just a pain. And that is what will turn everything upside down. Look, the history of recent finance, or in fact, going back a long, long way, is the liquidizing, turning into cash, of illiquid assets. So once upon a time, you got a mortgage, you went down the mortgage place, and they said, well, we've collected up enough cash from savings to lend you the money to buy a house or take your house as collateral. So there's the money. Thanks very much for the paperwork. If you don't pay, we're going to take your house and kick you out. Okay, and that's how mortgages work. And then mortgage securities came along when people went to those building societies, said, give us all your mortgage paper contracts and we'll sell them on to someone else. And we'll collect all the money up. Well, you collect it and then pass it on to us, and we'll do all that. And we'll just give you a big pile of cash so you can do even more mortgages. So they liquidated the value of those mortgage securities. So it went from an illiquid asset of a house to a illiquid asset of mortgage contracts to a liquid asset of cash that those mortgages could be turned into. And the same with car loans, and the same with student debt, and the same with credit card loans. So rather than the money going from A to B and stopping, doing a quick swap and then it goes back It can go from A to B to C to D to E to F to G, and then it can be chopped up into little pieces and sold as dodgy and not so dodgy and really safe at different interest rates. And lots of cash is generated by that process, lots of liquidity, lots of ability to take that money and reuse it again. So that is what that's the history of finance, and crypto will enable that to happen as well, but it will enable it to happen in the digital realm. So you'll be able to have play World of Warcraft and get the sort of extreme pain and sell it, so someone else can have it. Oh, I can't be bothered to play for 40 hours for that. Here's $10, give it to me. Right. So now this digital asset, which has been created as value in the digital domain before, was totally illiquid. I make this sword. That's it. I've worked for it, and I can't get the value of that sword out. With digital things like crypto, you can actually turn that into money and then sell that for ETH or Bitcoin, take that Bitcoin and swap it for dollars, go and buy yourself an ice cream. Yeah. And so you might think, oh, trivial, sort of extreme pain in computer games. I don't know. But when you think of all the life that you spend in the digital domain, all the work that you do in the digital domain, all the value that you add in the digital domain, the off-ramps for that value are very, very limited and often non-existent. Crypto opens that all up. So it opens up assets within the digital domain to be easily transacted.
And Clem, you opens up even, I mean, we are going even further now where you can actually monetize on your data. So it's kind of like getting crazy, but I think
it's not crazy at all, Steffi. Look, Google monetizes your data.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean,
180,000 million from that.
Yeah, so no. Don't get me wrong. I completely agree.
But think of that number: 180,000 million by monetizing your data, because they don't like crypto, because you can monetize it with crypto, and then they wouldn't get it, would they? So funny enough, they're pretty anti-crypto because they are a dog in a manger. They are the intermediator between your data in the digital domain and people that want it. So that's an example of the sort of semi-evil organization that acts as a thief of value from you as an individual that crypto solves. So, that is why it's powerful, because, I mean, now people live, well, certainly a younger generation, they live more in the metaverse, in their computers environment, than they do in the earthly environment. And, after COVID, that's more and more the case, where people are actually living through the window of their computer screen or their mobile screen, rather than through the window of their house or their flat. And, it's only going to get more like that, especially as all the countries that we're living in seem to be getting more and more and more authoritarian and making life more and more and more difficult. It's more and more difficult to even drive down the road. Because of that. So people will more and more be living in a digital domain. Davos, the World Economic Forum, they're semi-freaking out about that. They want the metaverse regulated, because if people start escaping in there, then what's government's going to do if people go, oh no, I just need to set in a computer bar?
I think that's kind of interesting to see how the metaverse is going to evolve. I mean, there are people talking about metaverse where actually is one metaverse, because I think that is the way to see it, which can have inside different kind of metaverses that maybe project can create. But
it's already here. We're in one right now.
Exactly.
We are in the metaverse. The only difference is people confuse strapping their computer monitor to their head as making it a metaverse. But it's not. I think wearing goggles does not make it a metaverse. A metaverse is I'm talking to you, and you're not here. You're on my screen. You're in a digital space, and we're chatting away together, broadcasting to 7 people on LinkedIn, and they are in this the Steffiverse. Yeah, and that is what the metaverse is about. Now, if we had a reason that we could be here and financially transact, maybe we'd be playing poker, for example. Why not? Yeah, and we can do that in crypto. Well, there you go. There you've got economic value and you've got economic activity, and it could be all sorts of. I could sing them a song and they could pay me to stop. you know, and I would take Dogecoin for that. And there's an example of value add and economic transaction that crypto opens up. And that is even more than, you know, Bitcoin or whatever, because once that opens up, as it is opening up now, that economic activity, there's no stopping it. There's no good or bad about it. It's just a leveraging of money and value. And that's, you know, very exciting.
Yeah, no, that's super exciting. I mean, we talk about regulation, and it looks like most of the regulation is now focused on stable coins.
Well, they're focused on trying not to get their key method of funding their fat salaries and their fat pensions delayered by this new computer technology. Because remember, if you think about middlemen and you think about dogs in a manger and rent-seeking behavior, that's government writ large, right? And if you think about computer technology and what they've done to incumbents in the past, for example, the media, you know, it came in, that's it, gone, right? So they're just looking at it and going, oh, if this new computer money replaces our old not computer money, we got a problem, because the money will just go elsewhere. In fact, the Bank of England, Carney, when he was there, he said, the trouble is with all these crypto and wallets and stuff, is that all the money would come out of banks and go into people's personal wallets, and the whole banking system would just vanish. And that wouldn't be good, would it? And he was totally right, because if you imagine that, well, I'm going to self-bank myself, I'm not going to put my money with the bank. Well, what happens to the whole banking system? What happens to mortgages? What happens to car loans? What happens to all the things that the fractional banking system actually enables, which is a lot of stuff, right? So, you know, it's an existential threat, they would say, and they're right, of all sorts of legacy ways of doing things. And of course, it's not that mad to want it for that changeover to be slow, and it's not that strange that they want to control it, and they're gonna try, and they're probably going to succeed.
Well, it is impossible really to wipe out all these organization or this financial institution in like.
That could be done quite easily. It's called North Korea.
Exactly. That means like change completely the world. That's not going to happen overnight, but not even over years. So I think that we kind of have to find a compromise, or at least financial institutions need to understand innovation is coming, and crypto or digital assets, let's call it like that, they are here to stay. So they are trying to find a compromise to put together some kind of regulation so they can feel they've got some kind of.
As I said, with the previous crash and the continuation of that crash for another year or so, yeah, they'll lose interest in regulating it. And they might want to regulate stable coins because they look rather like private sector money. And exactly. I remember when I was at that conference, and there was a regulators there and various banks that said, I just got a simple question: is there a future for private sector money? And not one of them would answer the question, right? And the answer is no. You can't have private sector money. Public sector money, that's our game. Get out of my face, right? The thing, well, what will happen is, as the cryptocurrency stuff and all the DeFi and actually all of it keeps in this bear market for another year or so, and maybe halves again, it's going to be tiny. It's going to be too, like I say, no, look, this is a problem that sorted itself out. It's gone away. It's insignificant now, because it's like 150 billion or 200 billion spread across the world is insignificant, right? It's like the market for potatoes or even less. So they'll just lose interest in it, and they'll probably, you know, be very, you know, do some stuff on stable coins. But it won't be that is exciting. It will be the other stuff that is quite compatible with the way that things are done now, blockchain things, that will actually have the big impact, because it's the blockchain technology that enables cryptocurrency that can also enable a whole suite of other applications just as powerful and not apparently as threatening, or maybe easy to miss, or that they won't care about. Oh, what do you mean that blockchain is going to change the way the car insurance is done? Really? How's that? Why do we want to care about that? Oh, we don't care about that. But of course, it will be huge, right?
I think, Clem, we are already seeing that with DEXs. I mean, there are centralized exchange that be collapsing on the feet, and DEXs are getting stronger. Now, I think Uniswap is actually going to accept deposit in fiat, right?
Well, I think it's a good example of a sort of cusp there, because very big financial vested interests will want to protect the legacy way of doing things, because when you think of all the public companies, they will get funded through public company infrastructure of banks and exchanges and advisors, etc. So there's a lot of people with very sharp knives who will probably want to see that go away. But if you get into things that are obscure and boring, which are just as transformative, then they won't care. And it will happen there, and it will then spread out, because there's a huge need for blockchain. There's a huge need for decentralization in many areas, and once it happens, there's no going back. There's certain areas which are the third rail, as the Americans would call it, that you'll never see anything in. Healthcare. You barely see computers in healthcare, let alone anything else, all right? Because it's a third rail. You can't touch that without everybody losing their minds.
Listen. Talking about that, there was a reflection I was actually making about digital identity, the identity in Web3, decentralized identity, which is kind of like a big topic right now. And obviously healthcare has got massive potential, abstract. Let's think about as an opportunity. But then you come down to looking at, okay, maybe there is capital to kind of look at the next level of digital identity in healthcare, but the risk is so high that is even more higher than the government and the state. So perhaps
the government and the state.
Yeah, it's even more, because it's about health. It's about people health. It's about diseases. It's about sharing data. They are even more important than any other kind of data. So my question was,
I think you're looking at something with equivalent to guilds in the Middle Ages, highly organized and smart groups of vested interests that are very, very efficient at making sure that they're, looked after and not bothered. So, if you look at those places, that's where you don't get much progress, because things just don't change in those areas.
Okay.
But there's plenty of other places outside of that where it will just, go in and blow up. And then, of course,
let's stay on this point, because it's quite important, and it's something that I haven't discussed with anybody, and I think it's so interesting. So what are the industry and the sector that are more resistant to innovation? We mentioned about healthcare. Do you have any other?
We're not really interested in them because they are resistant. So
I know, but it's people to know. It's also important for people to know what is resistance rather than what is not resistant.
Well, just look at the ones that haven't changed much, and then you'll see them, right? People still wear wigs in court, don't they? So you don't want to go anywhere near legal people.
Okay. Yeah? Okay. Well, so, it looks like legal has been doing lots of crypto, and has been.
They might want to tell you how difficult it is to do anything and charge you a lot of money for that. But you come in on their turf and try to take away their business, they take your head off.
So what would you say about supply chain? That's something that I'm quite interested in. Obviously, it's not too resistant.
Well, I mean, again, this is one. I think the thing you have to, if you want to make real money, if you want to make the big bucks, you've got to find things that have got names that are wrong. Like, it's all the prices are all down to the supply chain. No, it wasn't. Not at all. It's all down to the people not getting trained for 2 years and people retiring for 2 years. So there's a lack of people to do the blooming stuff. It's not there's some, kink in the supply train. The lorries are in a traffic jam somewhere. Yeah. It's people. The people, there's been 2 years of people not getting trained. People, there's 2 years of no new train drivers being trained, no new lorry drivers being trained, no new airline pilots being trained, no new ship captains being trained, no new barmen being trained, no new, you name it.
Yeah.
Big Mac flippers being trained, right? And that was what caused the supply chain issues, was there's nobody to do it. Yeah, where's all the lack of lorry drivers gone? There's no shortage of lorry drivers now, is there? And all of a sudden there was no lorry drivers. Well, because nobody was taking a lorry driving test, and the lorry driving tests have got so difficult that people were kind of, don't really want to do it really. And all the lorry drivers were on average 52 years old. Yeah, so they wanted to retire in say 10 years. So 2 years worth of no new lorry drivers. and you've lost 20% of your lorry drivers. And there's not supply chain lack. It's not like there's containers, you know, there was in various places where the containers were all bunched up, but generally there was nobody to do it because they hadn't had the training for it, and it's taken a year or so to catch up, and maybe haven't caught up quite yet.
Okay, I've got a question about another sector which surprisingly has been quite involved in this innovation way, which is fashion. It's a very old industry, hasn't changed much for decades, for more than decades, for centuries. And now with crypto, it was all about NFT, it was all about digital fashion. Do you think digital fashion is a thing? Or, I mean, I personally have got some reservation about it, and I was very excited in the past, but then looking about, you know, the utility really, I think there is a lot of hype into what is, you know.
I think it's fortunate in a way that we're going to have a bit of a recession, because when you're in a boom, everybody worries about different issues from when you're in a recession. And I think there was something that happened in the Middle Ages that I just see was limbering up to happen in our modern world again, and they were called sumptuary laws. And a sumptuary law was a law that said you couldn't wear a fur coat. No, can't wear fur coats unless you're a lord or whatever, work for the government. You can't wear one. You can't have jewelry. No, banned. Yeah, you can't wear ostrich leather. No, that's naughty. That is, you're spending too much money. You're showing off. No showing off. Sumptuary laws, and they were quite a big thing right the way up to, I think, about 1900. In fact, the people used to wear wigs with powder in them, powdered wigs. Okay, and the reason they went out of fashion was they introduced a tax on powdered wigs of 1 gold coin, £350 a year, to wear a wig with white powder in it. And that was kind of a sumptuary tax, because you were just showing off that you were rich enough to wear a wig and put powder on it. Yeah, and you know, in these days where, oh, you know, this, that, and the other, oh, you shouldn't do that, save the whale and all that, you know, I think sumptuary laws were coming on, and they would have smacked the luxury industry right between the eyes. But that's not going to happen now. And in the social media world, where everybody, the people that aren't smart enough anyway, are fighting over status. Oh, my life is better than yours. This is my view today. What's yours, silly person? Yeah, in that world, obviously, you know, making yourself appear high status is a big thing, and you do that through luxury and brands and fashion, don't you? So, you know, I think the homogenization of people through social media, forcing them to try to, you know, prove themselves more and better than everybody else that you see every day up to here, you know, it can only play to fashion's hand, can't it? Whether you're in a digital world or whether you're in the real world, if you are assailed by media saying that, you know, are you just another drone in a boring world, or drab person that you might be? Now you've got to separate yourself and somehow be a media influencer. You need to get my expensive handbag or whatever it is, my expensive set of £7 Amazon glasses.
Yeah, I still prefer physical fashion, but yeah, definitely. I think the metaverse. I think the you know, us living more the metaverse. Get more.
What you got to remember about the metaverse? It's better.
It is better for some way.
No, it's better. It's just better. It's just better all round. Everything's better in the metaverse, and cheaper, and faster.
But
and nicer.
Clem.
It doesn't rain on you in the metaverse.
Yeah, but it
cold wind doesn't blow down the back of your neck. You don't have to sit on a train with a load of smelly people eating their breakfast. You know, you don't have to do any of that in the metaverse. Yeah, and if you want a Ferrari, you jump in a Ferrari. It doesn't cost you any money. You drive down the street and you can do what you want. Your car flies. I mean, what could be better?
Yeah, no, but I mean, I agree.
You don't get a ticket in the metaverse, you know, for speeding.
But I still do think that, you know, people has to kind of balance their real life with the virtual life anyway.
That is your real life. What you're going to go out?
Well, yeah, people go out.
It's dangerous out there, you know. It's cold, really cold right now, and smelly, and full of dangerous people and dangerous fumes and dangerous vehicles and people with knives. You read about that in the newspaper.
Yeah, no,
And they give you a ticket
read
for
that.
driving too fast, and they'll charge you to get on a bus. You don't charge you to get on a bus in the metaverse, you know. You don't even have to sit on a bus. You can just go, you're there. You want to go to Paris? You're there. You want to see the Mona Lisa? You're there. And you don't have to stand behind 700 Chinese tourists with cameras either.
Yeah, well, I still think that people, you know, they kind of have to balance their virtual and their physical life. It's not good to live 100% in the metaverse.
But they live in the real world and they walk around like that.
That's a real point. That's a real point. I think everybody is like too much phone slave, and you know, it's so annoying. You are like a Christmas dinner or a Christmas lunch and people just stick on the phone, and you know, they don't communicate. They're just in their own world. And
if you hadn't got a phone, you wouldn't realize how boring you were. Now they've got a phone, you can look at them and realize you're very boring. And that's why they're looking at their phones, because you're so boring, they can't drag them. They've got nothing better to do than look at their phones.
I would just say that you kind of lose the ability to interact with people in presence. And that's sad. That's really sad. And I mean, being with people is great and being able to interact with them without being in the virtual world. So that's anyway, these are all like very philosophical stuff. And, you know, we all agree.
That's where the money is. The money is in the philosophy now, because we're going into an abstract world. We're already there. When people are looking on, when they don't go to work anymore, but, you know, when they're walking down the street like that, they're in an abstract world, aren't they? That is an abstract world. It doesn't even exist. It's intangible and ephemeral. All those words. Yeah. And that's where they're living.
Yeah,
they might be walking down the street, but they're not actually in there, are they? They're in here, aren't they? So if you know how to build something for them, that's how you make the money. That's how Google makes 185,000 million a year. That's how Facebook, even now, has made Mark Zuckerberg one of the richest men on earth.
Yeah, well, the future of Facebook is kind of like quite confusing, but in any case, we all agree that the metaverse is a very interesting place, lots of opportunity, and also is kind of like exciting to see how gaming is stretching or is
well, it's very interesting.
Is creating new things in the metaverse.
It's interesting because a few years ago, I come out of computer games. When I was a child, I started one of the early computer game companies in Britain. And, you know, we did computer games. And then gaming was gambling. And it's always annoying if you're in computer games. Everyone goes, oh, yeah, computer gaming. And you go, yeah, games. Oh, no, I'm talking about gambling. You go, oh. And then suddenly, in the last 2 years, computer gaming is now become computer games, and gambling has gone by the wayside. It's gone into the you know, it's been shunted off into the sidings. So computer games stroke gaming, i.e. not gambling, is pretty much the biggest media on earth now. And you know, the metaverse is that thing. What people don't realize that are new to the area is the metaverse is just, well, games, because environments are games. And, you know, once you start plugging that into a broader canvas, which a lot of the modern games, you know, once you step away from the first person shooters, a lot of the games do get a lot more, lot less interactive and a lot more environmental. And, you know, that is the road. A lot of the youngsters are already there. They already live there. And, you know, that's what you've got to realize.
So games, they have their own rules. And
well, they become environments when you have more than one person, you see.
Yeah. But
people interacting with it, it becomes environmental, yeah.
But what I'm saying is that every game has got their own rules. And because now they are in the metaverse, they will have to follow. Would they have to follow certain specific rules of the metaverse? Because we are talking about the metaverse getting regulated in some way.
First of all, you've got to get your definition of what it is clear in your mind. If you get the definition wrong, you're going to be barking up the wrong tree. Okay. The way that I've always seen the metaverse as a pioneer of multiplayer gaming back in the 90s is alternate environments. Now, that environment can be you running around, you know, shooting zombies, or can be you flying around shooting down fighter planes. It can be, you know, walking about slaying dragons. It can be just walking about a landscape, interacting with other people walking around a landscape, which is rather like the world that we live in. And the metaverse is just a parallel reality, a parallel environment, yeah, that you interact with. And whether it's with a goggle strapped to your head, because people have been sold this misconcept that you've got to be like the Lawnmower Man, which I actually wrote the game for that back in the day, you know, gloves and headsets. In fact, I did a gig in Japan, a jazz festival, in a headset in 2004. And it's not about headsets. It's about the environment. The headset delivers a more immersive take on that environment.
So basically clarifying that the metaverse is an alternative world and doesn't have to have VR and IR.
Yeah, doesn't have to,
I think
but it can be and should be. It might be one day very enhanced by that.
Exactly. Okay, but Clem, here we are again. We said before that the metaverse is going to get regulated, or people want to regulate it, right? This is like we said it before. So
they won't catch on fast enough. They won't catch on fast enough.
They won't catch on fast. So
because they'll probably define it wrong in the first place, and then, you know, and off you go.
Can we say, I mean, one of the things that I've always been like thinking about it is like about the role of DAOs in the metaverse or for the metaverse. Well, I mean, is this DAO thing a thing, or is something that will never?
There's another good example. DAOs are very exciting. However, DAO is just crypto politics. And once you understand that's all it is, then you can see that you've got major problems, because, you know, the trickiest game of all metaverses is the political game. Yeah, because you have to be some kind of crazy genius to be able to operate in it. And because people are just the ultimate challenge. So you go, oh, we got this DAO, and, you know, if you've got 1 token, you can vote. And if you've got 10 tokens, you can vote 10 times and all that. $1, 1 vote. Nobody would sign up for that in politics. Yeah, nobody. So all these DAOs that have said, like Ethereum, I believe it's, you know, oh, and you can do geometric voting. It still doesn't work. Yeah, if you're going to have a cyber or a crypto governance system, you've got to have a set of rules where it works. I mean, if you look at our current political system, it's got problems. It's got problems, and those problems are getting worse and worse. And probably the reason for that is that the whole system was built on a set of technologies which are now obsolete, because we built democracy as we know it in a way that relied on horseback travel and early trains and coming to a central point, and there being, you know, a parliament where everyone got together in and all that. Well, you don't need any of that anymore. And the underlying structure of modern democracies are 200 years out of date, and that's causing problems today. So if it's just a nightmare situation, government, you just have to read the news to see what a terribly difficult world politics is. So, and DAOs of, hey, we've invented a way to do politics online with cryptocurrency. Yeah. Great. But so what's your genius system that's going to outdo what we've currently got? Oh, we haven't got one. Oh, it's not going to work then, is it? So it's a great structure, but that no one's got a decent rule set to make it work.
Well, what about governance? I mean, DAOs could be a way to actually do governance in a more transparent way.
Yeah, it can be transparent. Doesn't mean it's any good.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's about having a system that's more benign and works better than the current one that we've got, or could replace and maybe do exactly the same thing as we're doing now in Westminster, but mean that people don't have to go to a crumbly old building that's going to cost billions to fix. Yeah, but it's another one of those things. It's like legal lawyers and healthcare. Go near that, they'll take your head off. There's no way you're going to get that to work. And nobody's even got, if you go and trawl Wikipedia for all the political systems that have ever been, there's not any of them that aren't absolutely riddled with problems. Absolutely riddled with problems.
So
DAO's not going to solve that. It's just going to add another layer of complexity.
Well, I think to this year, I think there is not much space for complication, especially when there is not much capitalism. I mean, do you agree that there is not much capital as it used to be for like this new project? I mean, do VC have the money that they had in the past, or they are becoming more picky in what they are powering in terms of project?
Okay, VCs, they looked at Bitcoin and said, good grief, billions and billions came out of nowhere. Where did it come from? Oh, it came from over there. Oh, you mean you can make a blockchain? Oh, okay, we could do that. And then this happened. Oh, well, we can reproduce that. And then that happened. Oh, we could do that too. So the bandwagon that was Bitcoin, and actually a few other things, and then ultimately Ethereum, they jumped on it. And then they all got up to all the sort of magic tricks that, FTX got up to. Because if you look at FTX and you read about what happened there, and you unpick it all and you put all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together, you'll see that that's happened all over crypto, absolutely everywhere. And all these chains that came from nowhere are all invented, highly manipulated, all, very interesting setups, and most of them will perish because most of them are built on sand. Some of them will succeed. Ultimately, what you need is what they call a use case. It needs to do something. Your blockchain needs to do something. Now, if it can, for example, power really, really fun games, then it will be a success. If it can power digital identity that would enable people to earn money, it will excel and succeed, and everyone will make lots of money. That's what comes next. Applications for blockchains. And some blockchains are particularly badly suited for that sort of thing.
Okay,
some of them are really good, well suited for those sort of things.
I think, Clem, this is a very interesting point, because if we look at at the future, then we think about different chain for different application. And maybe we can expand on that a little bit more. So let's talk about Bitcoin, let's talk about Ethereum, and let's talk about other blockchain suitable for specific applications. So, for example, the chain that will master DeFi, right? Which will be the destination
already?
So you would discard like Phantom, you will discard Avalanche, you would discard all of these, and you would just say Ethereum.
It's all down to the people that are behind these things and are running them. And, it's like Microsoft did what it did because of Bill Gates. And if it had been Bilbo Baggins, it would have failed. The whole history of all these big companies that we see today that are the Goliaths of the modern economy, behind them is a trail of business disasters and failures. And, Microsoft wasn't the only one. The history of Microsoft and its competitors is huge, right? And, and the fight and battles over the operating system and, the rise and fall and rise again of Apple and all that good stuff. Yeah. There's lots of people making personal computers. Lots of people making operating systems, lots of people making databases, lots of people making spreadsheets, etc. It goes on, word processing, goes on and on and on and on. The rock and roll family tree of technology is huge. But the people that made it happen are the people that made it happen. And most people failed. And the ones that got the win got a big win, a big, big, big win. And, Google, think of all the other search engines that have been out there that failed.
Yahoo.
Yahoo, well, didn't totally fail, they're still around, but there's a whole load of them. There's a whole load of them. Excite. I used to like them. They were better. And they still failed and they were better.
Oh, there
And
was one called Ping or something.
Look Smart was another one. And all those guys. Yeah. So, you know, it's going to be the same with blockchain. You know, Ethereum has a highly talented bunch of geniuses. So they're in good shape, although they've gone down the proof of stake route, which might not turn out so well. Polygon looks like it's got a good group behind it.
Yeah.
Solana, I always thought they were rubbish because they keep getting hacked and it all seemed a bit sketchy.
And also, Clem, who are the people behind Solana? I thought it was
exactly, and I probably would best not to say who I think they are. Exactly. But clearly, they were welded at the hip to FTX.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, then fine.
But one or two or three or four of those guys will come out dominant, and there'll be a whole load of applications, most of which will be utter rubbish. Some of them, the ones that are successful, will be massive, absolutely massive. So the crypto will lead to a new generation of applications that will be revolutionary. Crypto will be the engine of a whole new kind of software opportunity. It will unlock a whole new set of value, which will be, you know, massively revolutionary on many, many levels. And they'll organically find what you used to call the killer app back in the 80s. What's the killer app for this platform? Well, they will find their killer apps, and those killer apps will make obsolescent various ways of doing things, which were more expensive and more of a pain in the neck than the new ways of doing things. And, you know, that is how economic growth occurs and how value is added.
So if we have to kind of wrap up our views for 2023, I mean, let's look at opportunity. First of all, there are opportunities. I believe there are, but let's talk about positioning. So you will still say, is that safe to say that people can start their dollar cost averaging position into cryptocurrency?
I'm not. So I would
so
say
it's still early. It's still, I mean, we are not doing it, but
this is the year to preserve your capital and watch things unfold and base
and build.
Well, I mean, obviously it's great if you're setting out now and you've got the money to do it. It's perfect because you'll be building into an upswing rather than, I mean, you know, you'll catch the bottom, but who cares? The time you're really firing on all cylinders, it'll be on the upswing.
Okay, Clem, building on, because that's also very important. Lots of people on LinkedIn, they are entrepreneurs. So building in which area? We mentioned about gaming. We said maybe healthcare, and you know, this is like it's going to be challenging. What about DeFi? What about?
You know, I always think with these things, if you have to ask, you shouldn't do it. Yeah, because there's no way you can get involved with these things unless you're 150% committed and you're totally enthusiastic and you're prepared to do nothing but work 18 hours a day for 3 years. So it's not, you know, if people want to find something to do, they just got to follow their passion, and it has to be, you know, with a capital P. So if your passion is crypto, you've got to go around until you find the thing that makes you go, oh, OMG, exactly. I'm going to have to mortgage my house and do this.
Yes, I love that.
Prepared to do that, you'll fail, because this stuff is so difficult because no one's done it before. That's the thing. It's not like you're copying anybody. I mean, I've been copied my whole life, and it's very infuriating. But the reason people copy you is that they don't come up with their own ideas.
I don't want to mention people that copy, because otherwise
don't. But I don't mean what I write. I mean the things that I've done. I mean, I've been when I was a kid, I was in computer games, and then when I was a little older than a kid, I was in online stuff, and then when I was a little bit older than a kid, I was, you know, I've done a lot of early stuff. It's now I'm slowing down a bit. I'm kind of letting the world catch up with me. But the reason why when people copy you, they do such a bad job. There was a very large corporation. I was doing multiplayer games back at the very, 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 very beginning. It's a huge American corporation that said, well, I want to come and see you, Clem. I said, come to see me. And I used to have an office over the top of a hairdresser's. You could smell the hair lacquer when you came in through the front door. And they came up, these American guys, and they said, tell me what you're doing. Tell me why it's great. So I told them basically 10 things that I was doing, 10 of my best ideas. And 5 of them were brilliant and 5 of them were stupid. And they copied the 5 that were stupid. And it was almost hilarious. So I copied the 5 things up. What you should do.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, they copy what they can do, or
no, they don't know. They're not passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So they just go around. You look at people that are. You copy their ideas. Unfortunately, you probably don't know the difference between the good ideas and the bad ideas. But you've got, if you're going to do something, say in crypto, you've really got to want to do it. And you've got to be able to go, that was a stupid idea. We'll change that. You've so many people will succeed and so many people will fail. And it's always in this thing. But if you get it right, you do extremely well. And, that's what I'm planning to do. Yeah, and we'll see how that pans out. But in crypto, if you're passionate about crypto, you've got a chance. And if you've got passionate about an idea, you've got a really good chance. And if you're really, 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 really passionate and you're prepared to work your face off, then it's gonna work out. No going skiing though. No going skiing.
What do you mean not going skiing?
No going skiing. You can't be in a game like this in a time like this and go skiing, or go down to I'm going to Ibiza because there's some parties going on. They're the ones that perish.
Yeah, exactly. They are the one that. No, but I do agree. I mean, it's like it's looking the people behind you, is looking about the passion. Just do something that.
It's a huge opportunity.
It's not
for the It's not for the part-timers. It's not.
It's for the hardcore believers.
Yeah, I mean, Musk nailed that one.
And also, Clem, I think there is an element about discipline. There is an element about ability to structure your business as well. It's not just down to passion, because with passion you can get until a certain level when you face a challenge, and then you need to be able to step up next level, and some people, they are not able to do it.
Well, I mean, I think passion's the one to see, because you see so little of it. Yeah. I mean, it's like I mean, trying to buy stuff off loads of sites these days, it's a joke. Buying things, you email someone, I want to buy a product, don't email you back. You want to do, they don't respond to you. You must get that a million times. I mean, the viewers of this must have experienced this on numerous occasions. You've got money, you want to buy a product, and you cannot easily make the purchase.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think
that's the difference between passion and no passion. Yeah. And obviously, if you've got passion, you're going to grab every single.
Yeah, exactly. And also there are no excuses like, oh, but it's Christmas, oh, but it's Saturday, oh, but I have to go there,
oh, but I'm going skiing, oh, but it's Easter.
Exactly.
Oh, but it's sports day.
Well, listen, I think I was reading all these reports from Goldman Sachs, Barclays, Citi. There were all these reports for 2023, and the headline was recession, reconsidering your, the way that you invest, focus on principle, be cautious. And there wasn't much about opportunities. And that's
pretty bullish. That's pretty bullish to me. That's pretty bullish.
All these reports, they were very negative, which I understand why. It's better to kind of to protect customer. You want to kind of highlight, the risk rather than the opportunities. But there wasn't anything that was really like headline was the opportunity. And that's what I think people should see. They should see the bright side, the opportunity that motivate them to get skilled, to innovate.
You remember me a year ago or more saying, oh,
COVID.
It's all coming unstuck. No, but before last Christmas, before the bear market kicked off, this is all going to come unstuck. Well, it came unstuck, and now it's unstuck. Now it's going to carry on unsticking, but we're probably maybe more than halfway through the process. Yeah. So this is the, last November, run for the hills, right? Well, if you didn't run for the hills, you're halfway down one now. Yeah. So if you're out, you should be watching out for the final half unfolding. This is the second half of this. And as it unwinds, to get your timing right, you've really got to be within the flow of this, because 1928, it was 1929, the crash. It was Easter 1932 was the bottom of the market. And that's what we need to be looking for now, the bottom of the market. 2.5 years, 2 to 2.5 years, right? So we've had one, we've got another one. It might be 18 months. It might be 2.5 years.
But you mentioned before that 2023, end of 2023 is when we start to see the lights.
Potentially, or at the latest, Easter 2024.
There is when there is the Bitcoin halving, that is 2024.
Yeah, that's in 2024 sometime. I think it's October, November-ish.
Well, if we look back at 2019, I remember I was in Cape Town in beginning of February, where you were telling me, oh, I'm all getting out of all the stocks and, forget about it. A major things is going to happen. You were right. And, anyway, but that were actually the time where you wanted to position yourself in crypto, because the big rise came much afterwards.
Yeah.
So maybe 2024, end of winter, beginning of spring, maybe still a good time.
Well, it depends what happens next.
It depends if the Fed pivot early.
No, they're not going to do that.
They're not going to pivot. This is bollocks.
It's just wishful thinking by people that are long. But what's going to happen is, it depends how deep this crypto trough is. If it goes down to, I think 13 is going to be near the bottom. You can draw it at 8. If it does go down to 7 or 8,000, and if the regulators don't give up but decide to get, when it's down, kill it, then it could take a little bit longer to bounce back in 25, because after all, there's not going to be any Chinese buying it because it's illegal. So for example, it could get it could go down a long way, and it could not go down much. So you've got to let that play out. And it's no good trying to predict the exact number. I think it's 13. It could easily be 6 or 7. It could easily not be any lower than this. Just let it play out. Don't try to be Nostradamus about it. Just let the world change.
And if we look at countries, and if we look at kind of like government, they are going to be more positive about crypto. They're not going to try to kill it straight away.
I don't see why they wouldn't, because most of them are out of fiscal control.
Well,
listen, they're going to be worried that people will start avoiding their currency.
Well, listen, Dubai is a good place that is making good progress.
Yeah, exactly.
Switzerland has been making good progress and has been championing. Okay, there are lots of costs attached to it, but they are very clear. They've got framework. They're trying to do it the Swiss way. We said Dubai is that exciting. Maybe they've got different interests, because Dubai is Dubai and they have to build something. Otherwise, there's going to be a
long term. The countries that grasp this technology and let it run will be economically dominant.
Okay. Here, let's stop here. Let's be a bit Nostradamus. What is going to be dominant in 20 years? Who is going to be? Who will be finished and who will be rising?
Well, the one that is, the one to watch out for, the one that all the people that land rockets from space backwards onto floating barges are worried about, is AI. And, if AI keeps going at the speed that it's going now, then there's a lot of people going to have a big problem, because, they're the only thing they got is their brain. And if you can buy a superior brain in a box for $500, they've got a problem, haven't they? So AI in 20 years is the one to really watch. AI, crypto.
Something interesting I was listening yesterday is about if with AI you can actually replicate or recreate your parents, for example. So you can kind of like clone them virtually and using AI to, recreate their brain, the way they they talk to you. So then, even if they are dead, you will still have you will still be able to speak to them and get that feedback that you used to get when they were alive. Maybe they are not physically real, but maybe you can meet them in the metaverse. That will be quite interesting, will be quite reassuring maybe for people as well.
The thing to bear in mind about all this stuff with AI is that it isn't real. It's fake. And, even now with the really clever, AI stuff that writes, it's clearly fake. And it's shallow. Yeah. Now, artificial intelligence shouldn't end up being, real stupidity. And the trouble with our AI is that it isn't. It is intelligent and smart, and it is artificial, right? If you want to play chess against stockfish, it will destroy you. Real stupid. And if you want to play, if you're the best chess player in the world and you play stockfish, it will destroy you. And there's no feeling there. There's no emotion. There's no worrying about, saving the whale or the polar bears. It is just smarter than you. So in 20 years, that could be very, very transformative, because people moan and groan about, Bitcoin using so much electricity. AI uses just as much, if not more. And the more AI you want, the more you're going to use. Yeah, and then you've got an arms race, race for intelligence powered by fuel. Yeah, so then that really will boil the oceans.
But they don't talk about that. But nobody's talking about AI consuming too much energy, and maybe something.
No, but if you've got a bit more than the other guy, you win everything.
Yeah.
You don't just win a little more. If you're a little bit smarter than the other guy, you win everything. And that's very, very, very interesting. Yeah. People say, oh, well, it's going to get sentient and it's going to wipe us out. Why would it want to bother doing that? The point is, if you've got AI and your company can outcompete another company that does the same thing that you do, yeah, you're going to spend more money on AI than them, and you're going to put them out of business, aren't you? So everybody's going to put as much money as they possibly can into their intelligence, yeah, and use more and more, because AI is just pure energy. It's the same with crypto. It's just pure computing power, yeah, and that's just heat, yeah. So, that is going to be very interesting. And if someone says, oh, well, you can't have more than this amount of AI because, it's against the environment, the country around the corner that doesn't stick to that will wipe you out, won't it?
Yeah, that's I haven't really analyzed. I haven't really seen AI from that perspective.
All those GPUs that were mining crypto,
they are going to be mining data.
They've all got tensor cores in them now, rather than CUDA cores. And those tensor cores are very similar to what a CUDA core, which is used to mine crypto. It does a different job, which is the AI job of basically wrapping up all the various permutations of what you need to work things out with. And the more of them you've got, the more depth of field your intelligence can have. So the more of them you've got, the more energy you need. The more energy you need, the more cores you need. The more cores you need, the more energies you need. That's an arms race.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Clem, let's wrap this up, because
so maybe you just need to be in the business of making more and more power efficient tensor cores, and I'm sure there's somebody already doing that. In fact, I know there is. They're called NVIDIA.
They call
NVIDIA.
Okay.
They're the people that do the GPUs.
Okay. Okay, well, listen, let's kind of like wrap up the last, the video, the live stream, and kind of share the last, the final thoughts about 2023, if you have got any.
Go on
More.
holiday for 9 months and then come back and see if it's all over.
Go skiing for 9 months.
Go skiing for 9 months, or start a crypto business, because you'll be ready for the upswing. No, I mean,
start a crypto.
Time. This is the 2023 will be the pivotal year. If it's not, it will be very soon after. So now's the time to try to time that pivot.
It's the time to build and to get your skill up very fast. I think we pass. 2022 was the year to skill up. 2023 is the year to build, and 2024 is the year to run. No? Shall we say that?
I don't know.
No?
Running's never been one of my best.
No, run. I mean, kind of like get ready to play. Yeah, build more.
Pivotal year.
I didn't mean run like say goodbye. Like a like a quadriga thing. So
2023 is going to be pivotal. It's going to be the first year where the actual world economy is going to be pulling out of the miasma of post-COVID.
Okay, and then what we have to watch out. We need to watch out Russia and Ukraine, because that could perhaps trigger some interesting events in gold. We need to watch out. What other things we need to?
No, I think one just has to look at one's capital preservation. It's not about making more capital. It's about preserving what you've got.
Yeah, it's not about
and timing any entrances into assets that get interesting, which could be property. Who knows?
Oh, okay, Clem. But you mentioned before things to watch out. Apple, that can go down more, so that could trigger stock market.
Watch the bear. Watch the bear do its thing, and look out for the moment when it stops, and the bear goes to sleep. Yeah. And that, I think, will be at the end of the year. And then it will be about picking your spot for a re-entry, or whatever, or your dip buying, extreme dip buying. And, as I said, I think that's a good chance that will be this autumn, at the latest next Easter. Not this Easter coming, but the one after. So I don't think this is going to go on longer than the Wall Street crash. So, and that would put it into the middle of next year, Easter next year.
Well, I think this year is going to be really exciting for everybody that, wants to get involved, create something, be successful. It's just a year that there is the opportunity to do it. It's now. You can't wait. Otherwise,
it always is. It always was, and it always will be.
Yeah, but timing is right, because it takes time to build a business. You can't do it in a few months. I mean, people can. I mean, there are projects they've been built in 3 months, and then they caught the bull market, and they just went through the roof.
Yeah, we're not in one of their markets.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Anyway, Clem, thank you so much for joining. I think
Happy New Year, Steffi.
Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Bye now.